Hello, hello, and welcome to a special episode from the National Coalition for Men. This episode is about bad MRAs or false MRAs, people who are part of the manosphere or allegedly part of the manosphere who give us a bad name. Yes, we're including Andrew Tate in this list. There's a lot of confusion about the men's rights movement and what the men's rights movement is, who men's rights activists are, and what our actual beliefs are. And a lot of times, the men's rights movement gets associated with the incel movement, the MAGTOW movement, the Red Pill movement, and the pickup artist movement. And a lot of the aforementioned movements have a lot of very, very toxic people. The most famous one right now is, of course, Andrew Tate. So let me start off by being emphatically clear. We do not like Andrew Tate. I actually despise Andrew Tate. I think he's a con artist. I think he's possibly a rapist and a criminal, and I don't like his views on gender at all. Does he occasionally criticize feminists in the same way a men's rights activist would? Sure. But he also says things that we strongly disagree with. We disagree that people should be pressured into gender roles. We disagree that women should be pressured into staying at home while the man is the sole breadwinner. Do I think it's okay if a couple comes to that arrangement? Sure. I know couples where the woman stays at home and the man works because that's their choice. I also know couples where both man and woman work full time because that's their choice. And that's absolutely fine. Andrew Tate has a very toxic way of pressuring people into accepting a certain kind of gender roles, and he berates men and women if they don't live up to the quote unquote Andrew Tate standard. There's a lot of people in the manosphere who have borderline, if not outright, misogynistic views, Andrew Tate being one of them. Another group that I really don't like are the group Fresh and Fits. They are two YouTubers from Miami. They like to invite young women onto their podcast and more or less insult them for an hour and a half. And yes, do they occasionally say things that are true, such as, what do you bring to the table in the relationship? Sure. But at the same time, do they often spout purely misogynistic views and say that men are superior breadwinners to women? Yes, they do. And that really just isn't right. The men's rights movement is about equality. The men's rights movement is about treating men and women the same. And yes, there may be some natural differences, and you may see men gravitate towards some lifestyles and women gravitate towards other lifestyles, but not in all cases. And it's not black and white. And if a man ends up staying at home and being the homemaker, and the woman ends up being the sole breadwinner, and that's their choice, that's absolutely fine. So that's kind of what this episode is about. We're talking about bad MRAs or people who really aren't MRAs at all, because a lot of people say, oh, incel slash MAGTOW slash red pill slash MRA as if it's all the same thing. And it's absolutely not whatsoever. So that's kind of the introduction. There's a lot of fine folks here from the National Coalition for Men. So let's discuss.
I'll begin. I want to start by saying that someone like Andrew Tate, there are, of course, female equivalents. There are various feminists that I'm sure the feminist movement does not want to be represented by. It goes to extremes such as Sally Michelle Gearhart, who claim that to ensure human survival, men must be reduced to just 10% of the population. I'm sure feminists don't want her as their spokesperson. And there is a very definite shadow side to feminism, and there's a reaction to it. And Andrew Tate is a sort of spokesperson for those young men, mostly young, that are wounded, that are angry with what feminism has done, and he takes advantage of them. He chomps his cigar. He presents his archetypal macho elements. He does this from a position that appears to be strong and powerful. He appears to be able to speak his mind any way he wants. So he looks very appealing to the, well, maybe not so mature or wise among his constituency.
And especially, a young man that's been constantly attacked and constantly demonized by feminism, they suddenly see, well, these feminists are constantly attacking me. This person is attacking feminists. Oh, I guess that must be an ally of mine, almost as a self-defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Maddie, I know you have a lot to say about this.
I absolutely do. I 100% am appalled by this guy. It's the way that he talks about women and basically determines their value by their body count, and that absolutely infuriates me, especially as a female MRA, because I'm a female MRA and I speak on men's issues and I talk about them continuously. And we all know that, y'all were judged by, if you don't have, a high body count as a man, which, that's absolutely absurd and crazy. Body count doesn't matter. It was the fact that he slut shamed women in the process of it. That is a toxic move that's unacceptable to me. And it upsets me as a woman because I speak on y'all's issues. That's not very fair to go, the toxic route when there are women that speak on issues. And that's very hurtful to female MRAs because that devalues them. That devalues them that are the voices of the female voices of the MRA movement. And it shouldn't be tolerated. I can't even, I mean, this guy, he just gives off major Thunder Chad vibes, and it's absolutely absurd to me. I can't stand it, and I wish that Andrew Tate did better with relaying his message. I don't think slut shaming women is a good way to go. I just don't. I don't think it's appropriate, and I think, and it honestly, it makes the actual MRAs look terrible. It taints the overall structure of the men's rights movement. It taints it, and it makes us look horrible. And Andrew Tate needs to do better. And we need to push back even stronger and call out guys like Andrew Tate who decide to slut shame women in the process. This is absolutely absurd. It drives me nuts. And we have another female MRA that speaks on men's issues all the time. Katrina, she's awesome, and she's a fireball, just like myself. And she has a couple of things that she would like to say. Katrina, what would you like to say about Andrew Tate?
Well, I have colorful words I could use to explain him, but I'll put those aside for private conversations, to put it nicely. I think the issue with Andrew Tate is not only are you right in what you're saying that it devalues our activism as female men's rights activists, also the fact that not only does it do that, he's using a title which he really should not be using because he doesn't stand for any of their issues. He's doing things that generally the men's rights movement does not agree with doing, such as slut shaming. Also, his take on mental health is absolutely deplorable. We were talking earlier about boys that are sort of brainwashed into believing what he says and he's so grand and following him because they're so full of anger and hate from their own abusive experiences, from their own experiences with women that have not been very good experiences. And so they look towards him, and he spreads this idea that you cannot be open, you can't seek help, therapy is like a sickness in a way. He thinks you shouldn't seek therapy, it's weak to go through depression, it's weak to take those kind of medications. That's really horrible. And then on top of that, he isn't doing any kind of favors, because he gets to act the way he does because he comes from, and this is a word that will come to a surprise for people to hear used in this kind of movement, but he comes from a position of privileged egotism. He has the money and the people and the support. Yeah, basically the support, not positive support, obviously. We're talking about negative support that is at such a level that he can get away with saying these kind of commentary and doing some of the actions he's done that he's still not proven to have done, but would not be completely out of range for someone who chooses to act this way. And so because of that, he gets to go off on this rant on his little TikToks, his videos, whatever else he does, where he just continues to speak about, oh, well, this totally works, and using his own egotistical experience to reflect on to others and tell them they should do the same thing. And since they're angry and nothing else has worked, they think it's okay. And so you end up in a situation where now suddenly, as a movement, we sort of lose our value, sadly, because we have a person who's trying to claim that he's doing so much good, and in reality, he doesn't represent us at all. He just represents himself because he's very narcissistic, among other things. And that's just the few things he's been harmful for.
An inflated head happens to be one of them.
Light
Yeah.
of hand.
Do you think, see, this is what I wonder with people like Andrew Tate. Do you think he genuinely believes everything that he's saying, or do you think he's just making this outrageous character to make money, which wouldn't make it okay either way, because it is, you know, bad what he's saying. But how much of it do you think is this guy's real beliefs, and how much do you think of this is just an act for profit?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah, he's not a deep thinker, this guy. So
No, he's
he's
not.
just speaking out, and it's successful.
The fact that he's
You know.
appeared so many times on the Fresh and Fit podcast should be a red flag to anybody. Yeah, anyone who's been familiar with that, you know, Tom and I think would agree. Abba and Preach are a much better vision for speaking out on societal issues in general, not just men's issues.
And they're
I've-
not, Ab and Preach are not perfect by any means, but they're infinitely better than Fresh and Fit, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But really,
Um,
the point comes back to what Blue was asking is, you know, what are any of these people's motives? You know, why are they doing what they're doing? I've got a list here of, you know, the title is just conservative grifters, grifter being the operative word, starting with Andrew Tate, but there's also Chloe Roma. There is also Fresh and Fit. Just Pearly Things, you know, Donovan Sharp, better known as Rollo Tomasi, you know, but I also included, with apologies to everyone, Abba and Preach and Kevin Samuels and Ruined Leon. You know, it's only that they are doing what they're doing to a particular end, and you know, it's for themselves, you know. I don't like, you know, I don't even get angry at Fresh and Fit, just like I don't get angry at Abba and Preach. I understand why they are doing what they are doing, but I'm still, and you know, Kevin, while he was with us, you know, I understood that everything he was doing, everything they are all doing, you know, is a means to an end. And, you know, the unfortunate reality is a lot of the blame for where it goes wrong doesn't rest with them, especially people like Kevin and Abba and Preach and even Ruined Leon. You know, it rests with the people that are following them and that have followed them. You know, they take something that is, you know, is fairly well, just a second,
Leon?
just Ruined Leon.
He's
he's
a
a YouTuber.
yeah.
Um,
He's coloured
but,
and bisexual and everything else.
well,
I've watched
but
a lot of
he's,
this stuff.
you know, he's got some following, but my point is this, that, you know, if we're gonna try to distance ourselves from these messages, you know, we have to explain that, you know, the the reason is not because we're jealous that they're being heard and we are not. You know, the reason is that, you know, we're trying at our best, you know, to to have a cleaner motive for what we're doing. You know, it's not as exciting, it's not as bombastic, it's not as iconoclastic, but, you know, everything that makes those guys appealing, you know, it also makes us vulnerable, you know, because anyone can look at, well, anyone, the bystanding public can look at Andrew or Chloe or Fresh and Fit or Abba and Preach or Pearlie or Leon or Kevin or Donovan and say, this is just a hustle, you know, and it's just a hustle that is fully endorsed and, you know, fully supported by the men's movement in general. Now, correspondingly, over on the left side, you know, there is also one that is just a really recent rising star, calls himself FD Signifier. And he is very leftist, he's very intersectional, and purports himself to be very much in support of young men in the Black community in America, specifically. And he raises lots and lots of really good points about how, you know, the social, you know, dominance disserves them every day. And the reason I say he makes good points is because they're good points, you know, but he also unfortunately makes it clear that the only answer is to, you know, eliminate Whitey. Okay? And you know, he makes it convincing, but the point is that, you know, he's wrong, and he is not doing it, you know, as a savior of young men in the African American community. He's doing it for money.
Right. And the fact, and here's the thing, I mean, doing it for money is like one thing. I don't have a particularly a problem with it. It's the fact that you're preying on young, impressionable, naive men, or, you know, men that have been wounded or hurt, and you're basically emotionally and mentally manipulating them with these toxic ideologies, which is going to get, you know, both men and women hurt in the process. That's what I have a problem with. The problem is the toxic ideologies that really, really hurt the movement. It scars the both of them. I don't necessarily care about the money part of it, because if money happens to be a perk on speaking for men's issues, then that's fine. However, it's what you do with the money, and it's what you do with the money. And on top of that, it's how well you can articulate yourself.
So enemies of the men's rights movement, and there are many, can just point to this Andrew Tate and say, he represents this men's rights movement. Look how toxic he is. So we're here to disavow him and say, we are not following this so-and-so in any way.
But to go on, another, again, on the left that, you know, is of dubious motive is someone who calls himself Vosh. I believe in real life his first name is Ian, but he regularly touches on gender issues of all kinds. And again, you know, it's his motive and his methodology. Remember that, you know, the more clever and articulate and well-read and ideologically captured they are, the more likely they are to get people behind them, you know, to get followers, to get clicks, to get attention. But the fact remains that they don't care about those people that are supporting them. They care about themselves. Another one is ContraPoints, and I hesitate to put her on the list because she has done some good, but the fact remains that, she has an agenda that she only infrequently makes clear, and it really doesn't have to do with improving the lives of young men. She's touted as being the right-wing radical whisperer because she can convince young men that the radical right is a toxic rabbit hole. She's correct, it is, and they do what they do for the same reason, for their own personal gain. But at the end of the day, she's mostly doing it so that she will get more attention. Another one is
she's very disingenuous. She's very disingenuous towards the middle though. ContraPoints is, I don't know if she's either misinformed or being intentionally misleading, but she's very wrong about her take on the men's rights movement and very wrong about her takes on MRAs.
Right, and that's where she falls down. She might have all the good intentions in the world. It doesn't matter because she pretty assertively misreads and misrepresents us without ever talking to us.
But I really want to hear Mike's opinion on Andrew Tate. I really, really do, because he might bring up some good points. But that's
and keep in mind we only have 6 minutes left.
Okay. So go.
I can't say what I think of Andrew Tate because it's got to be clean. But the other problem you have got is that there are young women of a certain mindset that will find Andrew Tate immensely attractive for various reasons. I've seen a video of it today. One of these so-called e-girls who spend all their time on Twitch getting donations off of people just by sitting there. And one of them was, reacting to one of Andrew Tate's videos and sort of nodding along and agreeing with him. So there's an awful lot there as well. I just think, unfortunately, Andrew Tate is a bit like a broken watch. He's right twice a day. And you can't get away from that fact that he does say good things. All of these people that Les has brought up today do at one point or another say something that you can agree with. Ruined Leon is someone I particularly admire because he spoke out against the actor that pulled the fake hate crime and has called that out a lot. So Ruined Leon I have a bit more respect for, but at the end of the day they're all just trying to make money off it, and Andrew is the most dangerous one out of any of them as far as being an MRA is concerned, and I wish he would just go back to the hole that he's crawled out of in Romania and stay there and just leave us to get on with our job, which is raising issues for men and trying to fix them. That's what we're here for, to fix society, because it is broken in a bad way and that needs to change. Clark, you've actually not said a thing, sir, so would you like to jump in because you've got 4 minutes?
Appreciate that. My thoughts: if we don't push back and use our own voice, we allow others to dictate to us and co-opt our agenda. So that's another reason why I was very interested in participating in this conference today. I like Mike's point about a stopwatch being correct twice a day. And so there are things that Mr. Tate probably has to say that are quite salient and useful, but the rest of his rhetoric and some of his behaviors, we just have to disavow. Now, apparently Mr. Tate, like my son, is the product of an interracial union. And so I have to acknowledge that fact as I decide for myself just what that he has to say is relevant for my own experience and that of my son. And what that he has to say is bovine scatology. Now, perhaps it's
I'm gonna have
the
to
way he
look
says
that
it.
word up later.
Please go right ahead. I attribute that to H. Norman Schwarzkopf, who said it first time I heard it back during the first Gulf War. So, so some of his theories, Mr. Tate's that is, have some relevance, and we have to use our power of discernment in order to tease out just what is helpful for the vast majority of men in this world who are getting the short shrift, if you will. That's what I gotta say. Let's see. Maddie, have you contributed yet? Les, have you contributed yet? Tim?
I think
I would say one last thing, that I hold Andrew Tate accountable for his own acting out and his own toxicity.
Oh, that's
And
good.
I also hold feminism, the toxic elements of feminism accountable for creating a cultural environment within which an Andrew Tate can rise so high.
I think the main takeaway, the main message that we want people to get from this video is that MRAs do not support Andrew Tate. We do not support the messages or the ideas of Andrew Tate. We do not support misogyny or sexism in any way. And the men's rights movement and the rest of the so-called manosphere, it's not all one thing. So people lump men's rights activists with incels and MAGTOW and everything else. But exactly like Mike said, all we're trying to do is address issues. There's a broken system when it comes to gender equality, and men are a part of the equation. We face issues, we face discrimination, and we're trying to fix those things. Our goal is equality. Andrew Tate's goal and other toxic so-called men life coaches or so-called pickup artists, their goal is not equality. And I'm not against a man dressing well, looking good, trying to act confident to meet women, but I am against when people do it in a sleazy or manipulative or belittling or insulting fashion. So I think that's really kind of the main message. So thank you for listening. We are the National Coalition for Men. If you want to check us out, we're one of the largest men's groups in the world. And our goal is equality for men and for women and for all around the world. So